Welcome to Financial Focus, brought to you by GulfCoast Financial Services founder and CEO, John Kuykendall. John and his team of financial, legal, and tax professionals have been providing North Florida savers and investors sound, comprehensive financial guidance for over 30 years, helping you to achieve important life and planning goals. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more Financial Focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net.
And welcome into Financial Focus, brought to you by the best of the best in financial services, 9 years straight and running. They are the team from GulfCoast Financial Services, named best of the best by the readers of the Lake City Reporter, and celebrating more than 31 years now in serving proactive savers and investors across North Central Florida. And John, helping them to form the plans, the financially focused plan to achieve their specific financial retirement and really legacy goals for their family. The plans you create help to impact generational wealth.
Well, that's right, Peter. And we think that one of the advantages we have is that, I'm basically past retirement age. So I'm on Social Security. I'm on Medicare. I pay the extra money because I make too much money. So all the pitfalls that you're going to encounter in retirement, I sold a piece of property and paid a huge amount of capital gains on it. I've done all that. And we think that gives us an advantage because while I'm as old as dirt, I still believe that we have a lot of wisdom to give, and we can help you through that process. That's one of the things that makes our income plan a little bit different than everyone else's, in that the fact that we really do look at tax planning and all the different aspects of income planning.
Been there, done that, and have the benefit of experience.
Well, I tell you what, Peter, looking back on it, I wish I'd have had the experience before I did it. There were a lot of mistakes I made along the way because nobody told me otherwise. And all the books that I read and all the people that I talked to, my coaches and everybody, nobody gave me a different opinion. And so I've learned from the experience of hard knocks. And I've made a few mistakes along the way. I drew Social Security too early.
Do you think there's something to be said there that sometimes the status quo and the conventional wisdom is not always what it's cracked up to be, and that it's the best thing for everybody?
No, I think that's probably, one plan doesn't fit everybody. I can't take my software and run my plan and say this is for everybody. I mean, looking back on it, I was thinking about it this morning. I've made some mistakes. I've made mistakes for clients that I wish I could take back, because there are things that I know now that I didn't know then when I was going through that phase, that we could do things a lot different. And that's the reason that we're so adamant about that financially focused income plan, because everybody's plan's different, and we try to tailor it to each individual specific client.
Now, John, on today's program, wanted to specifically address market volatility. We've had conversations about the fluctuations of the market, the ebbs and flows, and the regular cycles that it goes through. And the conclusion that I've sort of come to through our conversations is that the time to address volatility is in the good times, rather than trying to scramble and be reactive when we do go through the bad times, which might mean that right now is a good time to look at our portfolio and run that analysis.
Well, that's right, Peter. A lot of people, because we're in the accumulation phase, we're working, we got a paycheck. Our wives are working in a lot of cases. They've got paychecks. We have money coming in. We don't really think about our portfolios because we're making contributions. We're buying dollar cost averaging in, but we don't realize what volatility can do in retirement when I'm in the distribution stage and I'm taking money out. And I think you've got a really great example today that I think drives home that, always chasing the highest yield in the distribution phase of our lives isn't that great a deal.
Yep. Well, for those of you watching the podcast videos, we'll flash some of these slides up on the screen to show what these illustrations, the power of what they are depicting, which is, John, real world scenarios, real world returns of the market versus some alternative options that maybe have a little less volatility once we hit that income distribution phase in retirement, and what a difference things can make here. So run through it, if you will. We've got scenario number one is a hypothetical $1 million retirement portfolio starting in 1999 and using the S&P.
Right, and going to 2019, which is a 20-year period. Now, we're going to take 4% out, which is the 4% rule, and we're going to index that for inflation so that every year it increases based upon the inflation. So you always basically have 4% spending, which is great. Now, in the S&P 500 for that amount of time, I ended up with a 6.48 yield, taking that out. But I only had, at the end of the 20 years, $148,060, which is it's great that it lasted for 20, but if I'm 60 and all of a sudden I'm 80 and I got $148,000 left and I'm going to live to 85 or 86 or 87, I'm going to run out of money.
Right.
That's just going to happen, Peter. It has to happen. So I think the thing that was surprised me was, when is the 5.04% return better than 6.48?
Right. And here's our second slide, which same set of scenarios, same starting balance, same starting year, same income over the 20 years. But now, John, instead of the S&P returns, we are using the U.S. aggregate bond index returns. Why is this different?
Well, because that's supposedly a much more conservative thing. We're not going to make as much every year. Some years we're going to do well, some years we're not going to do well. But we don't have the volatility and the dips that we have in the S&P 500 or in the stock market. So while we don't get as much return, I don't think, Peter, we have as much volatility. And that's really what this is showing, that at the end of that 20-year period, from 1999 to 2019, pulling out the 40,000, 4%, indexing it for inflation, at the end of the period, I've earned 5.04%, which was less than I earned in the S&P. But I have $943,438 left over. And I think this shows what the sequence of return will do to our money. Because if we're retiring and we're pulling money out in the distribution phase of our life, and the market goes down, it makes our portfolio go down much faster than if we could figure out a way to do less volatility. But we are geared as Americans to want the most. And so, telling people this, people have got to look at the charts and really see the difference, Peter.
Yeah. When I looked at these, I was surprised. It was shocking and eye-opening, and then moving through it and get a better understanding. How can, John, we have a 20-year average rate of return that's 1.44% lower and yet end that 20-year period with almost $795,000 more based on these scenarios, using these indices, using this income withdrawal strategy? But that's what the reality of the situation is. Even with the lower return, John, we are able to maintain and sustain the portfolio balance to a much more successful level because we've reduced the volatility.
Right. So, the story here is, what would you rather have? Would you rather have $948,000 or $148,000 at the end of the 20-year period? And I don't think anybody's going to say that they want the lower number. But, what happens is we have to quit chasing returns and worry more about volatility during the distribution stage. Now, during the accumulation stage, and you're young, you need to chase the volatility. You need to be in the market. You need to try to get higher returns. But as retirees and as older people not having an income, we need to be more conservative in our thinking.
I look at these examples, John, and I just sort of reflect and wonder to myself, at what point in my retirement am I going to be comfortable seeing half of my starting balance? You know, is that 10, 15, 20 years into retirement? And when I get to that point, how confident am I feeling spending the following year and the year after that? I don't really think that there is any point in my retirement where seeing a significantly diminished balance is going to instill confidence. And certainly not if I haven't spent the money, if I know the market's done that and eroded that balance along with the withdrawals that I've made.
Well, if you just think about, Peter, how much things have increased in cost over your lifetime, you understand that you're not going to need less money in retirement. You're going to need more money. And so it's going to cost more for the haircut, for the food, for the car, for the, all the stuff we do. I mean, it's amazing how much cost has gone. In 1955, we bought a brand new Chevrolet, my father, for $2,500. Now, it wasn't the top of the line, but it was the second level. And so $2,500. In 1971, I bought a Volkswagen Beetle for $1,750, brand new. So, look back and think about how much things have increased in price. And we are going to need a lot more money to chase the goods that we want, just to sustain our lives, not to have the luxuries of life, but just to keep going.
And not only that, John, I think about how many new items have been added to my budget. 20 years ago, I didn't have my cell phone bill. 20 years ago, I didn't have the identity theft insurance protection. 20 years ago, and 20 years into the future, I mean, maybe we're looking at, well, we have to hire landscapers and lawn maintenance now, because it's not a job that we can physically do ourselves. What about those healthcare expenses, which, by the way, are one of the categories, John, that's far exceeding inflation rates and increasing in expense more than almost any other category. So all of those things need to be accounted for, even though we have maybe less activity into different phases of our retirement, the go-go, the slow-go, and the no-go years, as you've talked about it. The things that we are still paying for are going to be more expensive, which is why, John, this 4% rule, these models, we really need to take a careful look at how volatility impacts our ability to cover those expenses.
And that's right, Peter. And what we have to do is we have to look at every phase: Social Security planning, tax planning, income planning. We have to look at everything. Medical planning. We have to make sure that we've got the best medical plans we can get, because, we're going to have, as you said, more medical expense. Long-term care planning. How am I going to cover my long-term care costs when there is no long-term care insurance anymore? So all those things are things that are going to be on us, because we will not be able to qualify for government assistance. So it's just as I've said in my new book, Retirement's Not for Wimps, and it's the truth. We've got to do a better job of income planning and preparing for retirement than we've ever done before. It's just, I can't imagine. I got my electricity bill this morning, and my electricity bill last month, that was a hot month, and I understand that. That was more than I spent in 3 years for my first home in electricity per month. So, I mean, it's just a lot of different. It cost us more. We have to have more.
Well, I'm looking forward to the release of Retirement Is Not for Wimps. And I know that you've got some outlets available where people can go ahead and pre-order that book or get their name on the list for when it is released. So ladies and gentlemen, we will put those links up in the description of the podcast and the video today so that you can go and pre-order Retirement Is Not for Wimps. And John, market volatility, creating income withdrawals, inflation, taxation, healthcare expenses. There are a number of reasons why retirement is not for wimps.
Well, the problem is, Peter, is we can't work. As we get older, there are only certain things we can do. And luckily, I've got a job that still requires my mind, not my body. And my mind's still good. But, how long that's going to happen, we don't know. But at some point in time, we're not going to be able to work. We're not going to be able to provide. We have to live on the income that we provided for ourselves and our protected income, the income that comes in every month that's sustainable, predictable, and long going through all of my retirement. We have to make sure we have that.
We always appreciate the perspective guidance from John Kuykendall, founder, CEO at GulfCoast Financial Services, serving North Central Florida savers and investors, author of Financially Focused and the new upcoming book, Retirement Is Not for Wimps. John, appreciate your time and the discussion of market volatility and its impacts on our retirement on today's program.
Thank you, Peter. It's great to be here.
If you would like to get in touch, you're always welcome to give GulfCoast Financial Services a call, 386-755-9018. Request your own personal, individualized, custom designed, financially focused written retirement income plan. And you can get the conversation started by giving them a call, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. Or you can always go online, GulfCoastFinancial.net, and contact them there. John, once again, appreciate the time.
Thank you, Peter. Have a good week.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through GulfCoast Financial Services Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. GulfCoast Financial Services Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions.